All right, folks, welcome to the Monsters, Madness, and Magic podcast. I'm your host, Justin, here with a quick word before we dive in. Now, in this episode, I chat with actor Cam Clarke about growing up in a family of entertainers, Hammer Horror, his new book, Tales from the Crypt, Ninja Turtles, Metal Gear, and more. As always, thank you all for listening out there, and without further ado, here you go. Cam, take us back in time. You're a youngster. Are you a book reader, fort builder, troublemaker, or all of the above?
Okay, give me it one more time.
Book reader, fort builder, troublemaker, all of the above.
I'd say a fort maker. That is about creativity and fantasy and imagination, whether it's with blankets under the dining room table or a couple of chairs, just in your head fort.
So not much outside forts, not in the wilderness, not sneaking out in the woods.
No, glamping.
Whereabouts did you grow up?
Right here in LA, born and bred.
Born and bred LA. Awesome. So formative films and TV shows that you grew up on yourself, what pops in your head initially?
Oh, wow. Well, I hated all the shows on CBS. All those, I hated let's start with the negative, shall we?
Sure, awesome.
I hated all that, the Beverly Hillbillies and Petticoat Junction, Green Acres, blah, blah, blah. I hated it. Now, ABC was where it was at for when you were a kid, because I would watch Mod Squad, Julia, Carol Burnett, wow. Bewitched, definitely Bewitched, and That Girl, and Daktari.
Were you into radio dramas at all?
Nah,
No radio.
I don't think there was really that. I'm not that old.
Just throwing it out there. So, did you enjoy going to the cinema as a kid?
Oh, definitely. But some of my friends, we talk about this often. You would, back in the day, you would call the theater itself and you get some, kid going, uh, sound of music at 3:15, 7 o'clock, 9:45, da da da, just doing this. We would call, but we didn't ever pay attention to that. I remember so often we would just go. It says, want to go to the movie? Yeah, okay, that's playing there. We want to see that. We don't care if we're in the beginning or not. I mean, I'm not the only family that did this. You just walk in, and in those days, it's like, I'm thinking, how did we ever know what was going on? But you'd go, well, we'll see the beginning, because you could stay in the theater. You could stay in all day if you wanted. And you would just watch the beginning. No matter what the movie was, you'd just go, oh, now that makes sense.
Did you have a preferred genre at least of film?
Well, my whole life, even as a kid, even though they scared me, my favorite genre, and still is, horror movies.
Preaching to the choir. What was your first horror film that you saw in theaters that you can recall?
Oh, God. Oh, I know. One time, mom was working, the King sisters were working in Vegas or Tahoe or something. And I can't believe my dad took me to see Hammer films. We saw two Dracula or whatever, and it is just, it's boobs on parade. All the, all the brides of Dracula, and they are just, it's just, it's like soft porn,
Yeah.
basically. But also, my dad was the king of B horror flicks in the 1950s. So pretty much grew up on the genre.
Wow. So, are you talking the Christopher Lee Hammer Dracula that you saw?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But my dad did some cult classics. The Hideous Sun Demon, very popular cult film from the 50s, and The Man from Planet X, Beyond the Time Barrier. All these movies where the artwork is insane for the posters. Films, not so much.
Yeah. You're saying your father was in those films?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was the king of the B horror flick
Oh,
back in
I
the
had no
50s.
idea.
Yeah,
Wow.
Robert Clark. Look him up.
Google.
You'll go.
So which records were spinning around your house when you were growing up?
I had older brothers, 10 and years older than I. And because we were a musical family, my mom always had records on. And when I was a little kid and up through, my teens, the music of choice at our house was bossa nova, the Brazilian rage, from the 50s and the 60s. It was Brazil 66, Carlos Antonio Jobim, Lorinda Almeida, Astrud, all these amazing Latin, Portuguese, Brazilian singers. And if it wasn't that, they were listening to Ella and Frank and Tony. My own music growing up, I was such a softie. I was never, and to this day, I don't like loud music. So even when I was a young guy, it's like the music you would hear in a padded cell. I was into the Carpenters and Bread, and also, kidding aside, I loved the folk, the James Taylor, Carly Simon, Joni Mitchell, and my favorite, it's not really folk, but he was in that world, was Cat Stevens,
Hmm.
favorite singer.
So did you pick up an instrument yourself or anything? Sing or
Uh,
perform?
well, yeah. I've been a professional performer since I was 6 years old. And here's where do we do the shameless plug here
Sure, awesome. Plug
right out the
away.
gate? Since we're talking about that, I come from a long line of professional entertainers. My mom's, and when I say my mom's, they were all my mom's. Mom had six sisters and two brothers. And they were a singing group back. They started in radio, and then they were called the King Sisters, and they were really big during the big band days. And then they went into semi-retirement. When they decided to come out, they were considered come out of retirement. It was like they had a guy at Capitol, a buddy of theirs at Capitol, and goes, "Well, you guys are really old." I mean, it's just like now, there were they were 40s. And so we said, I'm going to submit, and they changed their style from that Andrews sister thing, except it was four parts, to a jazz. They lowered their registers, a lot of unison, and did this kind of jazz thing. And so we submitted them, and they went, "We love this new group." And he goes, "Well, okay, reveal, it's the King Sisters." And Esquire magazine even voted them the best up and coming group,
Mm.
which is pretty funny considering they were huge stars. And the name, I guess, didn't ring a bell with the 25-year-old or whatever who was running the Esquire magazine music department. And then the moms were asked to do a benefit performance. And my one aunt, Yvonne, said, "Well, wouldn't it be wacky if we brought all our kids on the stage?" My older cousins were already the go-to kids in town as a lot of the kids of, the Hollywood music scene did all the background vocals for other records. They were the go-to kids. So for you old folks out there, my cousins were the kids singers for "Que Sera, Sera" by Doris Day, and "High Hopes" for Frank Sinatra, and the soundtrack for "Bye Bye Birdie."
Wow.
So there was already, this professional thing going on. And she had this benefit filmed, and she had a friend at ABC, and she said, I've got something I think you might like. It was filmed like at a university by the film department, and they made a pilot, and that was 1964, and we were on every week in 65, The King Family. So it's going to be released. Yeah. Before Christmas, there's a pre-Christmas order. It's called Now They're All Here, 100 Years of Entertainment Through America's First Family of Song, the King Family. Starts in vaudeville and goes up through my career in animation and video games. Yeah, so it's over 100 years, and it's a big, beautiful coffee table book with memoirs that I've put together from all of the King sisters, my cousins and stuff, and amazing photographs. A big, coffee table book with amazing photography and stuff. If you must know, okay, you've twisted my arm. Rare Bird Lit is where you go to. Rare Bird is my publisher. So Rare, Rare, Bird, BIRD, lit, LIT.com. I think that's right. Anyway,
I'll
and
put a link. I'll put a link up to
oh,
for
great.
anybody listening out there. We'll put a link in the description.
And the title, Now They're All Here, comes from the one line my grandma ever had on the show on our Thanksgiving special in 1967.
Wow, quite a history of. So, when did you make the decision to put the book together?
Bob Mackie, the famous costume designer, he had a book come out a few years back now. I don't know, 10, 5, something. We were his first series. And whoever wrote the book, we had a page. I mean, we weren't one of his huge, clients. We weren't Cher, we weren't Bernadette Peters or Carol Burnett, but we had this big, beautiful page. But the guy who wrote it was, I know he was trying to be funny, but it kind of bugged me. He said, the show ran for 2 seasons, then off that Mackey clad family went to the unemployment office. I was like, really? Okay, well, except for read this book. And it really was like total egotistical. It's like, no, we weren't that. No, we kept working. And just it got bigger and bigger and larger. And that isn't that a terrible reason to do it, to prove somebody wrong? But
Hey, it works just as well as anything else.
yeah, so to be honest, that was it. But I went, and then when I started thinking about when I saw that beautiful page in his book, I went, not only what the writer said, but there's something to this story that is 100 years long. And it's a Valentine, so no kiss and tell. Those are two kind of books. So King Family After Dark. We'll see how this Valentine book goes, and then we'll tell all the lurid tales.
So, is there just curious? Is there much about the horror history of your father in there?
Yeah, there's a handful of us that had careers outside of the family. Alvina Ray, who is was a famous guitarist, and is in the books as one of the innovators. He was one of the creators of the slide guitar, and his grandsons created the band Arcade Fire, which is huge in the indie world. My cousin Tina Cole was on My Three Sons. That was her big thing. So she has a chapter. And my dad, yeah, there's a chapter on all his science fiction movies and stuff. Beautiful full color, pictures of the posters and everything. So yeah, there's step outs on all these tangents. So you've got everything from radio to LPs to animation to sci-fi to sitcoms to jazz to pop, swing. It's all in there. It's all in there. Hey kids, tell mom. Operators are standing by.
Just sticking with your childhood for a bit, were you a big concert goer? Did you enjoy going to live performances?
It's kind of like the shoemaker's children. My parents we were working all the time, literally touring the country or taping our shows. But even in the downtime, I didn't go to a single concert until I was like in junior high school. And then I went to one. I went to see Jesus Christ Superstar at the Universal Amphitheater. But I never went to like a music concert until like in my 30s. Isn't that terrible? No, none of that high school going out to concerts. Again, I didn't like rock music,
Hmm.
and I was kind of a gleek. So most of my friends were the choir kids. We were pretty busy learning madrigals and and all that kind of stuff. So I missed that I didn't see a lot of the people I loved in concert when they were touring. But I was able to see Carole King and James Taylor about 10 years ago when they were doing the Troubadour tour, and managed to pick up Kenny Loggins and, some of the other folks, Sting, and people that I wish I'd seen, early on. But I have tried to make up for lost time.
Was stage fright ever an issue for you? Did you have to overcome it, or just a natural?
Well, I'm 6 years old, and all of us were pretty much raised under the piano. The moms would put whatever baby or toddler in the laundry basket and bring it over to the rehearsal, or we'd be playing under the piano with blocks or, whatever. And they'd bring us up on stage if we were there, because we would often go to the casinos and we'd spend summers in Tahoe when they were performing there. So it was it's so funny because, our moms were famous performing and everything. And they said, okay, we're all going to do a show now. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but okay. And so I kind of just stepped up to the plate as if it was, okay, kids, going on vacation or time for dinner or, okay, let's go jump in the pool. It's kind of just what we did.
Yeah, yeah. So, Cam, a question I like to ask everyone is, and now feel free to take this whichever direction you want to go with it.
Uh-oh.
What scared you as a kid?
I love your questions, man. You're not out the gate with,
Ninja
what is it
Turtles.
like to be one of the Ninja Turtles?
We build up, you
Uh,
know.
okay, we'll save that. The Dark. I mean, I love the monster movies, but of course I'd watch them, like this. I think back in my day, Wizard of Oz, for example, was on Thanksgiving. And I know every kid and, every boomer would hide your face when the Wicked Witch of the West or Mrs. Gulch
Yeah, I believe
would
that's it.
ride
Yeah,
would
yeah.
ride by the window on her bicycle with a da 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 da, and every kid would, hide their eyes. But I would also watch Chiller Theater, which was our local afternoon horror movie show. And a lot of it was, the 50s stuff. It was, The Day the Earth Stood Still, but also Hammer stuff, Christopher Lee and Karloff. And sorry, my allergies. I'm going to blow my nose. This is
You're
Cam
fine.
Clarke,
I'm
what he
sick as
sounds like
well.
when he blows his nose.
I've got the first cold of the season myself, so no worries.
Well, I am pounding the emergency. But so I would watch those shows. I'm scared of the dark, but and there's going to be a sneeze or two, y'all. Inside my bedroom door, not on the outside, but when you would close my door, is a 6 foot tall poster, so the size of the door of Frankenstein. I'd go to sleep. The door, I don't, you always got to leave the door cracked open. It's like, say when, son. A little more. Okay, right there, to get just the right amount of light peeking through. But there's Frankenstein, staring at me. Can't go swimming, and you can't go swimming with the pool lights off at night.
Oh, I was
That was
terrified for
scary.
the longest time of swimming pools just because I saw Jaws too early and I thought the shark would be in there.
Well, at nighttime when you're swimming, there are definitely pool sharks, and I don't mean the kind that play for money. All the monsters were at the bottom of the pool at night, and it was like, I dare you to go swimming without the pool light on. No way, man. Do it. What are you, chicken? And everybody was like, I can't.
When it comes to your father's film work, were you did he ever bring you on set or anything like that?
No,
Hmm.
in a word. I mean, I was really little when he was doing those. I think the last one was probably like in 1961 or two. So I'm only like 4 years old or whatever. So it wasn't really an on-set kind of thing. The only stuff we would never go to tapings of the moms, but we would go on the road with them before the family started touring, which was 1965 when our show started. But like I said, we'd be at the casinos and they'd sneak us little kids, because kids can't go into the casinos. So we'd go through the kitchen and they'd have a little like cocktail table set up by the kitchen door where we could have our Roy Rogers and Shirley Temples and watch the show, and we all knew their act forwards and backwards.
So, Cam, I saw in your bio that you were taught by one of my personal favorite actors who I've had the pleasure of speaking with several times. That's Michael Bell.
Yes,
I want to ask you, what are some of the early lessons that Michael taught you that kind of stuck with you and got you rolling?
no bullshit. And whenever I've never taught, but I have guest lectured and stuff. What was great about him is a lot of people are just like, oh, that's great. Okay, next, Jerry, why don't you get up here? Michael Bell, I remember because he was my first animation teacher, and he would have you stand get up on stage. And I remember him having his hand on my shoulder and, okay, do a blah, blah, blah. And I'd do something, go, nope, do it again. Nope, go like this. Da, da, da. Okay, that's it. Now, da, da, da. No, that's not it. So you knew where you stood because so often you'll be with a teacher or meeting a casting person, and they go, great, to everybody. So you're sitting here going, that was total crap, and that person should get out of this business. He's not even in yet, or my antenna are totally screwed up. Because I go, that was awful. That was great. Okay, Cam, you're up. So anytime I have lectured, I'm very honest, unless you are so bad, and that's that who knows who has a crystal ball. But there are
Right.
people that I've had in front of me who I'm going, oh, honey, let's go find something else for you to do. And if I give a direction, even just simple like a musicality, like let's go up on the end of that, or put the emphasis on this word, and they don't change it. They don't get it. And I do that a couple times, and they haven't moved an inch. Then I go, okay, great, let's move on. If you want to take a private, then I've got the time, but I can't just sit there and work you out when there's 12 other people, in the room, and some of these people are like got it going on, and just want to jump in with them.
Right. Do you still have contact with Michael at all?
I haven't seen Michael in quite a while, especially since COVID changed the course of history the course of the future, I should say, for so many things. And coming up as a voiceover guy, animation guy during what my age group, and the folks before us and just after us, the golden era of animation, and also auditions. There wasn't Zoom, there wasn't all this. You had to be there. So we go to auditions every day. The if you made that inner group, and it would be like a party at every audition. And in fact, the casting people would like come out of the office and go, "Can you keep it down out there? We're trying to record." So it was an amazing experience and a lot of ensemble recording. And now it's, auditions are done from home. No casting advice. So it's a shot in the dark.
When it comes to ensemble recording, that's very rare these days. Do you feel like, as an actor, something's lost when you're not
Oh,
bouncing
totally.
off your other?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, there's some shows I've been on where I'm glad to be recording alone because it's just like, you guys, you got the job. Okay, can we bring the whackety whack down and save it? I love to goof off, but I'm kind of, when the red light turns on, of course, but the main thing about ensemble is the way you feed me a line can totally change the way I do it. And when you're together and you're going to speak after me, I will say to the director, okay, let me do that again. And then that I'm going to send you something new, which will change your reaction. And if you do an improv or an ad lib, I'm able to, it's like, okay, serve it up, serve it up. And so much of our work was done that way that you really honed your skills of being organic and being available to anything that your partner would throw at you, or the other castmates, I mean to say.
Agreed. When it comes to, you mentioned that you did a few, you do some lectures here and there. What would you say is a common pitfall that you see a lot of young actors fall into that you've coached or taught?
Well, it's stuff that I have just passed forward from my, coaching being taught days. Number one is never audition with a voice you can't sustain. Like you can go like this for an audition, but can you do a whole video game, especially a video game when you're reading off of? Video games are done solo, and that's okay with me because it's a different animal than animation. But so you can't even catch your breath when other actors are talking. And people will like thrash themselves because, and if you're new, maybe you don't know about sustaining things, but you always need to be mindful. Can I do this?
Or, I used to book a lot of, these little things.
My little is a little lower now.
But a lot of work like this, like Christmas elves and, and I've done some cartoon voices like this too.
Eek the Cat. I played the Squishy Bears, and which was a parody on the Care Bears. So if you do a voice like that, you got to be sure you can keep it up there. And as a tenor, it's mainly it's the girls and Cam, or the I'm teasing, but the boys who could go up there, because so many of the gals with the little bitty voices, I mean, that's how they speak in real life, a lot of them.
Just on the subject of voices that you can maintain, is there a voice that comes to mind that was a bit harsh on your vocal cords that you'd rather never do again?
No,
Good.
actually. I take breaks. I mean, I was never like, oh my God, what were you thinking? Because that was all that was one of the first rules I learned, and I kind of got it. And also I knew I couldn't do, I can't do Frank Welker. I don't have this bassy bottom to this day. I don't have those notes. I can do a little lower, but so you learn to know it's like pass. I don't need to audition for everything. Never did. If I go, this is and when you would have auditions in the flesh, your audition would start when Cam walks into the room. That's when it begins. And they've given you this character, and you do your wackety yeah. And they go, okay, great. And then we were free to go, I took a peek at some of the other characters. I'd like to try this one, for you. And they go, sure. I mean, almost always they wanted us to do well because it made them look good. It made them look good, I should say. That's the emphasis, on that. And or they would go, I'm not feeling this on you. Hang on. Jack, bring me the sides for that other character, and they bring in something. And we were amazing at cold readings because we were fortunate. When I say we, I mean the people that you talk to, this group, we were fortunate enough to work all the time. So our skills were polished every day. It's like, the soap opera people who can be handed new pages in the morning and it's in there. Yeah. I could never do that.
It's funny that you mentioned Frank Welker because when I was speaking to your buddy Townsend Coleman, he said one of the times that he's been awed by someone doing a voice was when he was doing a table read for Inspector Gadget. And Frank does the villain. I can't remember the villain's name on the show, but Townsend is thinking in his head, that can't be Frank doing that voice. I don't know who does this voice on the show, so I'm going to look around and see who it is. And then it comes out of Frank, and Townsend ruins the take by going, "That's you! That's you!" That's hilarious.
As far as this is kind of a tangent to what you said, but getting to record with people, I had a couple opportunities to read with to perform with people that I was crazy about. On the show that I mentioned a minute ago called Eek the Cat, Eleanor Donahue played the mom. And for those youngsters, she was the lead on she was the lead child, three kids on Father Knows Best back in the 50s. I would watch it after school in reruns. So just going, I'm sitting next to the oldest daughter from Father Knows Best. And she was adorable. And, just, it's not like I was sitting next to Brad Pitt but it was Eleanor Donahue, who was like the people who come to our Comic Cons. She was in my living room or when I'm home from school watching TV, she's in my house. So it's different from movies.
Yeah.
Where they're on the big screen. But when one of these people comes into your living room, I think we all think of the TV people, at least back in the day when we didn't have everything at our fingertips. It felt more personal.
Yeah.
Because they were in your house as opposed to you went to the fancy movie theater or whatever.
Yeah. So when it comes to working with giants of the industry, I'm just curious, did you ever have a chance to work with Mel Blanc before he passed?
No.
Okay. I just like to ask everyone that.
Yeah.
Most people have a Mel story, or they see if they do.
Yeah, I do not. I could make one up, but
So by the time that now correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but you start on screen and then you make your way to the vocal booth.
Say that again.
You started on screen, right, with maybe
Yeah.
some TV roles, and then you make your way to the vocal booth. How would you say that your vocal booth career started rolling?
Well, I worked a lot with my family up till I was 19, and then I was raised Mormon, and so I did that missionary thing and went away for 2 years. And of course, it's so cliche. The agents are going, yeah, that's right. Well, doors will be open when you get back, kiddo. Yeah, we love you. We love you. And it's won't even return a call, blah, blah. My brother, Rick, had become an associate producer over at Warner Brothers. There's a wonderful niche within the voice world called looping. I don't know if you've had people talk about that on your show.
Sir.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's all the vocals that are put into a show or a movie in post-production, whether it's the fight grunts or the death rattles or the sports game in the sports bar on the TV or the sex or, you name it, the cop radio calls and stuff, all of that. And my brother was working on a spin-off of Dukes of Hazzard. And he would say, hey, you want to come in and do this? I was like, okay. And really took it for granted what a sweet little nepotism I got. And let me just correct all of you, nepotism. I want you to look up the definition. It's been given such a, when you use the word nepotism, it's
negative.
like a negative.
Yeah.
But it just means you're hiring a family member. It doesn't say a family member who is bad
or isn't qualified
or isn't qualified, whatever the industry. And obviously I was not qualified yet,
clearly
but I got it.
Qualified.
And I started working for a gal who got hip to me on my brother's show over at Columbia. And on a movie I did for her, I met this couple, Chuck Howerton and Linda Gary. Now, Linda Gary was like Tress MacNeille before Tress showed up. I mean, there was some crossover. So don't quote me and don't call me out. But she was one of the biggies in the 70s and, then the 80s. But, her time was 70s. And she pulls me aside on this session, on a loop session. And she says, have you ever thought about doing this as a profession? And I went, now I'm going to be a movie star. Or at the time I was at Parsons Design School. I went, no, I'm going to be an illustrator. She goes, well, okay, but I think you should pursue this. I went, yeah. So she introduced me to a coach, got me my first agent, I took Michael's class out the gate, and it was pretty much Cinderella.
Hmm.
I couldn't get arrested on camera as a young adult or as an adult. I couldn't get an audition. And I would switch agents and they'd fall in love with me. And they go, hey, Lucille, this guy didn't read on blah, blah, blah. I mean, how can that be? Oh man, I can't believe you didn't get on that. And I had no auditions the majority of the time I tried to pursue on camera. I did a handful of commercials. But so when I closed the door on trying to pursue the on-camera thing, it also gave my focus, it's like your focus is now here, just here, not all around. And I loved the anonymity of it. And my whole career, you can walk down the streets, and if some of your hit shows or games were on camera, you couldn't go to a restaurant with the
Right.
popularity of some of my titles. But I've loved being able to be in this end, and I don't regret never having had an on-camera career except for when I was a kid.
You mentioned that you were trying to become an illustrator. Do you still paint or draw or anything?
I do not now. I have a thing called essential tremor. Any of you guys watching this have ET? Anyway, it's a nervous system condition. And so I have this,
Oh, okay.
my hands shake, but I have a lot of my art, and I had a couple of books published that I illustrated, and I had a line of greeting cards that did quite well, and a little novelty joke book that did very well called How to Be a Total Californian back in the early 80s. So I loved the art. That takes a lot of money.
Yeah.
And especially when you're self-publishing and stuff. My greeting cards sold off the rack. My partner and I, it took a nice chunk of change. And then when the stores are going, okay, what's your next set? And I'm going, next set? You mean like my next 14 designs? And it's like, oh, you mean this is like fruit and vegetables has an expiration date I get. And I kind of went, I kind of just pulled back from it because it was too expensive. Yeah. So I just said, I'm going to stick where my money is coming from, which is, the voice world.
Well, Cam, listeners to the show will know that you are the fourth of the four turtles that have been on the show. You're
Save the
the
best for
yeah, you're
last.
the last one I've got. And the other guys have mentioned that you all had to audition for all the turtle roles, and that Townsend specifically said that he was given the comp of Sean Penn from Fast Times at Ridgemont High for Mikey. Were you given any comps for Leonardo?
Nope.
Nope.
And I imagine Towney told you that they knew they wanted Robbie for Raphael and Barry for Donnie,
Yeah.
but they didn't know. They just knew they wanted Towney and me, but they didn't know whether it was Michelangelo or, Leonardo. Now, I am at ground zero of Val speak. I grew up here, and I know the year that this started, and it was before Fast Times. It was in high school. This started showing up. So I'm talking, like the early 70s. It's already starting to creep in. So I thought, this is mine because it's my home. It's my briar patch, y'all. And so they literally flipped a coin. You guys all know this, but I'll give you the cliff notes. Went like this, and it's like, okay, Townie, you're Michael, and Mikey and Cam, you're Leonardo. And then at break, we'll switch and see which we want. Well, break came, and break went, and it's like, okay, let's go. And I went, well, hang on, you said we were going to switch, and I could do Michelangelo. And they go, yeah, we're good, we're fine. Yeah, but you said we're fine. This works. Okay, roll it. So I was disappointed.
You wanted Mikey.
Oh yeah, because Leo was he was the straight guy. He was the tent pole. Everybody else got the bounce off of him. and I like tried to sneak in some of that parody that the boys were able to use,
Mm-hmm.
which I at least was able to use in Deflator Mouse and the Tick. I got to, lampoon superheroes with Deflator Mouse. But so I'm kind of making Leo doing this kind of over the top thing. Director calls me out into the hallway on a break. She goes, "What, Sue Blue?" She goes, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm just, trying to make Leonardo kind of funny and, goofy. Well, don't. And she said, "You are the straight man. You got to have somebody who's in charge." It's just like, these names, a lot of y'all won't even know who they are, but Dan Rowan and Dick Martin from, Laugh-In, there's the straight guy. Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, there's the straight guy. Uh, Dean Martin, he just set Jerry Lewis up for his next diddly-do. Likewise, the Smothers Brothers. There was the straight one and the goofy one. So it took a while for me to be okay with, okay, I'm just going to set him up.
Mm. So with Leo, like you said, he has to be the straight guy, and everyone else is bouncing off of him. But in your head, they didn't give you a comp. But is there anyone that you're going to in your head to try to someone you're trying to a voice that you're trying to mix in there?
I kind of, well, again, you got to remember, we were auditioning every day, trying things out, learning things. And he was a teenager and he's the leader. So I kind of, in, right behind my left ear, I'm hearing like Mickey Rooney from the Judy Garland movies, the, Strike Up the Band, and we gotta save we're gonna put on a show, guys. Come on. My dad's got a barn. Mickey was so great at that. And his voice, I mean, I'm just kind of thinking of that right now. If you were to watch an old Mickey and Judy movie, he's not far. He could have been Leonardo.
Yeah, the guy from the Garden State Life commercials for anyone. They were like, that guy used to act.
Quite a bit. He was really good. So good, especially as a well, he always was, but as a young guy, all that teenage stuff, that wide-eyed stuff. So I tried to kind of think of him, but also just teenage, I'm a hero. So you're earnest and you're like this.
I know you've done quite a bit of dubbing too, and I've heard folks that dub say that having a musical background definitely helps a lot because it's almost a musical skill to get the cadence in the mouth
Oh,
right.
I think musicality, if you have a background in music, or whether you, play piano or you're a singer, it really helps when you're trying to not be redundant or when it has to fit right into that mouth. Anime is one thing. Of course, we didn't even call it anime in those days when the big show Robotech and Akira. So that's a different world. But in doing live action, like every language, your mouth is different. French, the mouths are, they're small and they're forward here. So you're having to do the English words, you have to tease them up so they fit in a small mouth. Latin languages, everything ends in a vowel. We, like German, do not. I mean, most of the time we're ending on a consonant. So that's another kind of tricky thing. But when you're doing German or Scandinavian, it's a little easier because those are closer to how we speak in English.
It's funny, Barry has a really hilarious story about the auditions for Turtles. How, like you just mentioned, all you guys got to do all these different voices and play off each other, and they just tell Barry, "Well, you know what?
Just be yourself."
Just that nerd voice. I think you just got it."
Yeah, yeah. His stretch was like not, because that's the way he talks in real life, Um, so yeah,
So,
that's correct.
so Cam, how far along the Ninja Turtles ride did you realize, man, this cartoon's a pretty freaking big deal?
Well, there's a couple of different ways to answer that. Again, because we're not on camera, there's not that, oh, I guess people, know who I am. So your life hasn't been altered by this insane popularity. I remember my mom, and this is in the book, talking about they were big players on radio, but there's no applause. They were recording and obviously people were liking it, but they didn't know their popularity till they played the Palladium, I think it was, out here in Hollywood. And the kids rushed the stage. Like just, you go, oh, wait, my mom had people rush the stage. Well, they were all 20 years old. So it was just the same thing. I tried to impress some kid with who I was one time because he had the Ninja Turtle hat and the
Yeah.
t-shirt and the plush thingy. And he's in line for a movie to go to the movies. And I think I'm going to give this kid a thrill, right? You guys have heard this if you've watched come to any of the Comic Cons. But so I leaned down. I mean, I'd be arrested for being a perv if this man starts coming down to this little kid. I don't know where his parents were, or they were standing there and goes, "Huh, weird guy talking to my son." Huh? I said, "I see you really like the turtle. He's got an ice cream." Yeah, and I'm leaning down. I said, "Well, guess what? I'm Leon." And then I switched to the voice. I'm Leonardo. And he looks at me without missing a beat and goes, "Oh, yeah? And I'm Donatello." This kid is no more than 7 years old, right? And I went, "Hey, I'm a cartoon." And when we started getting popular, friends would say, "Oh, come over, do it for my son, do it for my little 7-year-old." And they would freak and they'd start crying. And I would say, "Do you have a second phone line here? Let's call them." Because then they would giggle and be gleeful and all of that. But in person with the little ones, it was like, the scary man.
Yeah,
Scary man, why are
it
you
doesn't
talking
connect.
scary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That had to change when did that change for you when Comic Con start taking off, and has it changed since then?
We were very disappointed when we thought for sure we're gonna ride this cash cow, to the grave. And when the first movie came out and we weren't in it, I think I auditioned. I have to audition, whatever. But each incarnation has had a different, the guys have probably said this on your show, has had a different spin. And as Shakespeare said, the play's the thing. And we learned that this is a title that can be reinvented, and the next generation has their turtles.
Right.
And they change a little bit, whether they're, more intense or edgy, whatever, or totally just goofy. So you let go. When Rob had to put a gun to my head to get me to start doing the Comic Cons, because they're so people-y.
Yeah.
But mainly I said, "Rob, who's gonna want our autograph? We're just like these old dudes." And let's not, I'm not going to kid you. I knew I was somebody in the industry. I know that in the history of animation, my name's going to, be in that book with a little picture and da da da. But again, that was years ago. I had no idea. Well, I didn't know that the Comic Cons are really all about nostalgia. Whether you're going there to see the cast of, Dallas, or movies. Yesterday I went to see a friend at a Hollywood show that was just like face people, seeing Joan Collins from Dynasty sitting up there, and again the cast of Dallas and Gilligan and Bob Denver, blah blah blah. So I didn't know it was about nostalgia, and so I was shocked when I started going and see this line going, out the door for stupid us. It's like, well, we're not even active. We're not even active, but you become an age. And I think this is pretty universal. We all share certain things as kids, the way we see the world, the weekend, felt like it was 20 days long.
Yeah.
The world spins now and it's like, I can't believe it's almost Christmas. So a lot of the people that show up are in their midlife. They're in their 40s. which is when you start to you look over your shoulder and you're going, wow, how, how did I get here?
Yeah, what the hell
And
happened?
so you have this midlife crisis and you look for the things that made you happy, the things that uh, gave you, joy. My midlife crisis, I wasn't married, so I couldn't have an affair. I don't like Corvettes. You know what I mean? And I didn't want a polo pony. So I bought my childhood back. I bought all the toys I loved as a kid. And so I have a music room where my piano is. And on one wall is just all the toys that I'd either had or wanted. Because you're trying to hold on to, it's like, wait, no, 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 don't leave me, don't leave me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
going to these cons for a lot of people, it's being with us is being with their childhood.
yeah. And just to add to that, folks my age who are having children, also introducing their kids to things they grew up on, carrying it on, having them meet you guys. It's just an endless cycle.
Which is not a thing from my life. You'd watch cartoons and you go out and play. My parents couldn't have cared less what I was watching, and nor did I really. I enjoyed it both, but it wasn't like, wait, is that so and so? Is the that person in the Archies also the same guy in Scooby Doo or Cool McCool, whatever it was? It was like I didn't care. I could have cared less. Nor did parents go, well, son, I watched Felix the Cat growing up, and I want to learn you all about Felix, or Merry Melodies, Looney Tunes and stuff. I discovered Looney Tunes only as an adult when I started going to festivals before there was interwebs and all that craziness. You'd go to, festivals and see all the edgy stuff and the old stuff that you're going, I didn't even, this is a thing. Oh my God. So I also remain in a state of, what are you people doing here? Why are you paying me this money? How is it you're introduced? How do you care that your kid watches what you watched? It's just like, I don't get it. And yet all you people, there I said it, you do it. You introduce, whether it's your own kids or my kids, we sit down as a family. It's like, well, nobody sat down with me watching Josie and the Pussycats. It was not a
Right.
family affair. None of it was.
I can't let you out of here without asking about Tales from the Crypt. The third little pig.
Isn't that a great cartoon?
Yes.
And it was one of my favorites. And I think I'd have to pull it up, but
I think I'm doing this. I think he's got this small, kind of nerdy, high voice cracking voice.
Nailed
and
it.
that voice served me well on, like I said, other things. And I got that role because, to again come full circle, I ran the Loop group, the people who did the background voices for the murders and the killings and the werewolves and the zombies and all the stuff that would be on that show. And then they were doing this animated episode, and they were like, "Hey, you do cartoons, right?" And yeah. So I read for it, and I think it was kind of like a done. I don't know, but it felt like a done deal. Like, yeah, he does this. Let's just read this. Read this. Okay, great. But I love that. And I love that people love him. It's such a deep dive.
Yeah.
I love that people know him.
Yeah. And I'll get crucified by my audience if I don't mention the name Liquid Snake. And
Snake! Did you like my sunglasses? Not yet, Snake. It's not over yet. It cracks me up because he's like villain 17-3, and I marvel that he's got such a following. Because I literally was auditioning. Okay, he's a villain. But I do go foppy when I do villains. I do best when I'm a villain who's probably polishing his nails while he's, killing you. Most of the villains I've played are, they're in here. They're kind of just, oh, what a bother. as opposed, this villains that I do always had this kind of one eyebrow raised. And I'll kill you in a moment. Please hold on. I'm on the phone. And it seems to be people love him. He's probably second to Turtles
Yeah.
as far
What
as
a contrast.
popularity of the shows. Yeah. Yeah.
Cam, I like to wrap up with this question here. Have you ever had an experience that you would consider supernatural, paranormal, or an event you can't explain?
Damn it. I long for a ghost like you cannot believe. I want a cold spot in the house. I want a little ball to roll down the stairs. Um, I have never sensed the slightest anything. And I hear people saying that of their experiences, and I was like, whatever. The closest I can get would be something more, perhaps, although I believe it as real, but it's more in the enchanting place. I'm a
That
tree
counts.
hugger. I'm a big tree hugger. And I mean that, as well as save the forest, but I mean literally. When I touch a tree or I embrace a large tree or even a smaller one, but it's like I see how long you've been alive and I feel there's something rumbling around there that's not just on a cellular level. And I'm, making this whole thing up, but that's what I get when I place my hands on it, and I'll get weepy. I went to
Mm.
Ground Zero for the first time this summer, and there is one tree that survived, and they nursed it. They took it away. They worked on it, and then they planted it. Have you been to Ground Zero?
I have not. I have not.
There's this one tree, and it's called the Survivor's Tree. And touching it, it was almost, like being
Electric.
possessed. It was electric. How much of that I'm bringing to the table, I don't know. How much is really there? I mean, I guess like phantasms and ghosts and stuff. Did I really feel that cold chill, or am I making that up? All I know is that whenever I engage, it's like I'm in a dark forest. I'm in the forest where the wizards live, and there's the imps and the fairies and the brownies and all those creatures. Um, I, yeah. So
That,
that's as close to ghostesses as I can get. Damn it!
that counts, man. Cam, just to put a bow on this thing, why don't you remind folks about the book, where they can buy it, and all that good stuff? Anything else
Oh,
you want to
thank you.
promote here?
That's pretty much all I got. We got a bunch of cons lined up for next year. I don't have the places in front of me right now, but I post them on my page at camclarkvoices.com, and you'll see all the boys and of course lots of your other favorite voice actors and on camera people. But the book again, and you were so sweet to put the super on there. Um, Now they're all here. 100 years of entertainment from America's first family of song at Rare Bird Books. Um, and there's still copies there. It's mainly the big release is after the holidays, but there are copies available. We set up some for a pre-holiday order. And for those of you that are fans of Cam, again, I have a full step out chapter where I discuss a lot of the stuff we've talked about, and I had cast photos where I brought people together for reunion photos. I had a reunion photo for the Turtles and for Robotech and for Metal Gear. So there's some stuff that y'all wouldn't have seen and behind the scenes stories and everything, and I'm really proud of it.
Awesome. I'm going to get myself a copy for Christmas. Cam,
I'll leave an autograph it for you if you like. That'll only be $75 more.
deal. Sold. Cam, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. Thank you for giving me some of your time again.
Thank you so much for having me on. You've been great. Your questions were like you start out the gate with just regular stuff, and it's just so refreshing. I will close with this. I had a panel recently, these couple of guys, And normally it is. And I love y'all for wanting to hear the broad stories and how did you get this and what does it feel? Da, da, da. But it's fun to be asked other stuff like movie genres, so you get to know other parts of me. Well, these guys did a quiz show, but I was the contestant, and they had characters of mine like in silhouette, like witness protection. It was just this
Yeah.
black blob of their outline, and they'd play me a clip of the voice of me, and they go, "Who's that character, Cam?" Tick tock, tick tock. I go, I don't know. Is it? Yeah. And I guess I'm right, but I don't know. And then they open it up and show it. And I go, I have no idea who that is. So I did the voice for that. Okay, you win. I'll go home with a toaster as a parting gift. I failed miserably, but I loved it.
Well, when you've done as much work as you have, it's probably hard to keep up with them all.
Yeah. Kind of is. People will ask me what my favorite episode of Turtles is. And I go, the ones that paid.
Good answer.
I do like the ones where Leo threw up his hands and went, "I'm done being the leader." That was fun. But I've given up trying to pretend I know what y'all are talking about. And they'll go, "Can you do the voice for da da da?" I go, "I don't know, who is that?" I go, "Yeah, I'll take this other person. You step aside right there and you pull it up, and then I'll do it because I don't know what you're talking about." Which doesn't mean I don't love you and doesn't mean I don't love my work. I'm old, can't remember anything.
I appreciate you, man. You have a great rest of your day, and
Thank
I'll
you
send the
very
link down the
much.
line.
All right. Have great holidays.
You too. Appreciate you.
Bye.